Greetings and welcome to the Thirsty Mage, the podcast officially in a period of mourning that we finished one of the greatest masterpieces in video game history. I'm your host, David Lloyd, and yes, that's a lofty superlative to toss around, but after 90 hours of pure joy, we can confirm that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is a game that's earned the 7 episodes that we've dedicated. I don't even know if it's 7, I think it's more than that at this point, but we've dedicated a lot of coverage to this game, and I think it's completely earned. So this is the final episode, though. We'll be discussing the final dungeon area, the absolutely insane final boss sequence, and that ending that some have found divisive. I don't know if I have, but that's just one man's opinion. With me on this entire journey, and now experiencing the same after game depression that I had gone through, it's Casey Gibson.
Oh man, it's funny, right? Like we joked about, like, oh, the game of the decade is coming out. Game of the decade releases is here. Easy game of the year winner released in April, or whenever the heck it came out in March.
Yeah.
Or what? I guess it was actually February 29th, right? I believe it was.
Oh yeah, it was on Leap Day.
Yeah. But it's funny that even with those lofty expectations, we undersold how good it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's game of the century, game of forever. I mean, it's certainly, I was talking to Kate, my wife, the other day about how good it is, and she's like, is it your favorite game of all time? And it's hard to conceptualize that, right? Especially, like, I think of games like Diablo 2 and, like, games like that where I've spent literally thousands of hours. But in terms of a purely single player story driven experience, I just don't think there's anything that's better than this, like, at all. It's just been so good.
Well, and for me, I never thought a game would ever dethrone Trails in the Sky for me as my favorite game. But I mean, it's happened. It's officially like my favorite game of all time. And especially when you've got, like, for me, I've got what is it, like 30? I want to say like 34 years of gaming now, and like played everything under the sun. Like, I've grew up with the original Nintendo, played everything from there in between. There's been plenty of terrific games throughout the video game history. Uh, and especially, like, it's tougher too, because when I would say for a lot of people, they're kind of glory days of video games are probably in their teenage years, early 20 years, when you've got the time to play them, you've got the focus or whatever, and they're kind of like your formative years too. Like, there's always talk about a lot of people's favorite music genres or whatever are popular like during your teenage years, sort of thing. So I could see video games kind of being the same thing, and and it's with any art form, really. Like, I know TV shows from teenage years, like they're when you're forming, like, your like, it's your development years, so the things that you're consuming at the time are going to stick with you. It's what
They're
you're going to have
ingrained.
nostalgia for the rest of your life. So you think those types of games, like growing up, like Ocarina of Time and Trails in the Sky and old Final Fantasies and everything, and how could anything compete with those memories of these, like, iconic games? But no, Rebirth is blowing them all out of the water.
Yeah, who knew our renaissance would come in our 30s and 40s?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's incredible. It really is just a magical game. That's not to say it's without flaw. There are definitely some wonky things here and there, but really a drop in Gears and Gambits.
Oh, right. That's another stinky one.
But yeah, but in the grand scheme of things, a drop in the bucket for just how incredible this game is. And I'm really excited, as Final Fantasy VII's always sort of their story, right? There's always sort of been an air of mystery, an air of, like, oh, you need to sort of dig below the surface to really sort of see what's going on. Lots of people, I think, over the years, right, there's been plenty of theories and like this, that, and the other thing. And then obviously they've expanded that with, like, Advent Children and other properties, even Crisis Core, right? Other games and other
Dirge of Cerberus.
Yeah, other media and stuff to, like, flesh out these things. But yeah, I think we're gonna have a great talk here with some. Obviously, we're gonna talk about the ending of the game and all that good stuff, but you know, a lot of speculation to be had, and where part three could go. Uh, oh, just so good. I think they've really done like a top tier job of keeping the feel and really the cadence of the original for the most part, but like unlocked like 8 layers deeper.
Yeah.
While just still keeping that really great original experience intact for the most part.
Yeah. Well, before we get into the ending, I guess we should start with the Temple of the Ancients.
Woohooey!
Yeah. Now, I have to say that like when I going to the Temple of Ancients, I was kind of like I said, I was depressed. I was feeling a bit anxious because I knew like okay,
Something's going down here.
yeah, this is the end. Like if I'm heading up here, I'm probably triggering the final scenes. So I was kind of depressed and almost reluctant to go because I knew this was the beginning of the end. And so I it's funny like there's like an opening sequence where they put the Turks put the keystone in, and there's this like crazy cutscene of the temple, almost like
Manifested.
Matrix style, like reforming itself into the actual temple to open up the door, I guess. That was a pretty wild scene, like the helicopters flying over and like the entire landscape of the forest changing to reveal the temple.
Yeah, that was epic. And obviously, right, just the visual, like the power of the PlayStation and all that, like, yeah, just really brings that to life.
Yeah,
But one thing I did want to say even before we got to, they changed the location of the Temple of the Ancients from the original. Right, like
yeah,
I'm looking at a map of the original one, and it was much more south, and a little bit to the east, but pretty much dead south on the map. Where now in this one, it's up north,
yeah,
and you jump on the tiny Bronco, which is currently a boat,
yeah.
and
Lost
you
its
zoom up
wings.
that. Is it? Well, isn't that crazy, dude?
Yeah,
Like you can go anywhere. Like you could just jump on the boat. Like I'm just gonna go over to the Junon area. Like I'm just gonna
yeah,
cruise on over there, and there's no like loading. I mean, obviously they're loading at some point, but there's no like hard cut. Like oh, you're loading into Junon.
yeah.
It pretty crazy that like it's actually like the world's pretty
Well, and the world is
seamlessly.
huge. Like when you're riding in it and you realize how long it takes you to get places, like man, this world is massive.
Yeah,
Like
I was listening to some other coverage of people's thoughts on the end game, and they were like, you can actually from the grasslands, you can like literally run the entire game, like the in terms of like through each area to the final stuff, to the final zone without any like hard loading screens.
yeah,
And they're like, it'd take you about 45 minutes to an hour to run the whole world. Um, yeah, it just speaks volumes of like it's crazy the scale and scope of this entire game.
yeah. No, it's pretty incredible. And well, then the Temple of the Ancients is pretty wild too because nothing like I was expecting. I think it's been a hot minute since I played the original game, but I'm fairly certain you're mostly just kind of going in and it's pretty short lived. Like you can see murals on the wall and run into Sephiroth or whatever. But um,
And I remember it had that like I can't think of the painter at the moment. Like the surrealist painter where like things sort of like melt in like the stairways, like you would look at it,
yeah,
like to mess with the perspective, right? Where it's like, oh, that stair goes down, but then like somehow it actually goes higher up, because it's just like sort of like an optical illusion.
yeah,
Um, I feel like the original sort of leaned into that with lots of stairways and like, oh, like the idea is that you could sort of get confused on which staircase to take,
yeah,
and you might have to double back a little bit. Where like now, yeah, it's like
full blown.
yeah, they've much like all of the areas in this game, they've
Yeah,
really blown it out, and yeah, instead of just like oh trying to find the maze, it's like actually um, the perspective is literally changing where now I'm upside down, or maybe now I'm on the side, and it's opened up new paths
yeah.
along the way.
Absolutely changing gravity like on the fly. It's pretty crazy.
It's super cool.
Yeah,
And it's just funny, right? Like because the ancient or the time is saying, I can't even think of the phrase. I'm losing my mind here. What I'm trying to say is, right, like the rumor is, once if you go into the Temple of Ancients, like you don't come
Oh,
out,
you
right?
never return.
Yeah, like that's the big thing. You go in, you never come out. And I think they do a really great job of sort of bringing that to life in terms of you seeing all these Shinra, soldiers. They're just, yeah, pawns essentially, right?
Yeah,
Like, go, and all of a sudden, like, oh, the temple is now like gusted winds, and those
yeah,
guys blown off the map, and they're gone forever.
yeah.
And you're just like, every turn, it seems like more Shinra,
Dead bodies everywhere.
yeah, more Shinra people are dying or getting blasted off the map. And it's cool because you just sort of see it in the background, and just sort of adds that layer of like, oh crap, like we're in a spot that doesn't want us here. Like I took it as is sort of like it's the temple's defense system, right? Like, let me
Yeah,
just get these little bugs off of us, right? Like a little little swat of these bugs off the map. And you're just constantly seeing that, which like you said, I just think adds to just like the, oh crud, we're in a spot that's not exactly ideal for us.
yeah. And if that wasn't enough, Cloud is now going like full Sephiroth mode too.
Oh, dude, yeah, he is in puppet mode.
Yeah, yeah. He's butchering soldiers, and then there's a part where they end up getting split up. You end up fighting as two, like the party gets split into two, and then Tifa's like, we should look for Aerith, and Cloud was like, she'll be fine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's like, that's not the main objective here. Screw her.
Yeah, we're moving on. And I think it's pretty neat that they have the game decides when you're playing as each party, and so you start off as Cloud and you get to a certain point, and then it cuts to like, oh well, 6 hours earlier, and then you're like in the Aerith party. I
With
think it
that
was with
cool clocks,
Yuffie and Red 13, right?
like the really cool sort of like clock transition to,
Yeah,
like, it's funny because at first it was almost jarring the first time I saw that,
yeah,
because it really, so I was like, oh geez, okay, like, yeah, meanwhile, but yeah, I do like how they split it up.
yeah,
And I think you warned me about this. You're like, yep, yep.
yeah.
You're gonna get some split parties going on.
Yeah, well, I knew you had joked about it, like, oh, I wish Aerith would just die already, so I never had to use her again. And I'm like, well, you
Get
better
ready for the
make sure
final
you're
boss.
using her because you're gonna need her.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
yeah. So then, yeah, you're kind of going through the temple with each party, and it's neat because you can kind of see like where you're kind of crisscrossing here and there, whatever. And then they get to the point where it's near the end of the door, and um, you fight. And there's like two Turks that you fight as in Cloud's party, and then you kind of like when the battle ends, the floor kind of gives way and you fall down, and then you realize that the other party, because you cut to the other party had been fighting below the floor against the other two Turks, and when the floors collapsed, like the Turks are reunited and the party's reunited, and I like that Yuffie's like chirping like, you could have killed us,
yeah.
because the rocks had fallen down on their heads or whatever. And
It's funny that like there is just a set of bosses, right? These Turks, they're
yeah,
enemies, right? But like, I really don't dislike any of them. Like, as characters, like obviously they're sort of, they're against us, right? Their objective is to sort of, do what I mean, in this case, they're trying to get the black materia and sort of preventing us from doing that. But I don't know. I just, like Hojo, you hate Hojo, right?
yeah,
Like Sephiroth, he's such an a-hole. He's doing all these awful things. But to me, it's like the Turks, it's like, I don't know. I don't dislike any of them. It's like, oh, they're doing their job,
yeah.
they're getting their paycheck. They got to try and stop us, and we got to try and stop them. And it almost feels like there's like a mutual respect for one another. I don't know. I could be reading into it, maybe like, or I don't know. It just
No,
seems like to me is like they're not really like, they try and stop us and they get in our way, but they're not the enemy.
yeah, no, there's definitely that respect there. Like, and you get Reno back, and then Rude still doesn't want to fight Tifa and stuff. So it's
Rude's my guy.
yeah,
Bald bros for life, brother.
yeah. So it's neat. And then like, yeah, even saying whenever there's an opportunity not to have to get into a conflict, like he's just like, leave him alone. We don't,
Really, it's Reno and Elena, right? That's the she's the Elena's her name, I
Yep.
believe. Those two are, to me, it seems like the most zesty and ready to go,
Yeah.
or feisty might be the better word. Like Elena seems like, right, she's like the new girl on the squad per
Yeah.
se, where she's like, I got to prove myself that I'm a G, like I'm ready to kick some butt. And Reno just seems like he's sort of like the outlaw of the group, right? Like he's sort of like the tougher guy. But yeah, like
Yeah.
to me, like Rude and Sang are very much just, yeah, it seems to me like they're like, we're just here to get our paycheck and move
Yeah.
on, man. Like we're just here to follow orders.
Yeah. Well, and it's even funny because Elena is the one that doesn't even want to go to the temple because she was the one that's like, do you not know the rumor of the
We're gonna be dead.
everyone's gonna die? And he goes, well, technically the wording is that you never leave. And she's like, what's the difference?
Yeah, she's definitely over the top, but in a good way. I like her character.
Well, and she almost met her demise too because the cloud as Sephiroth was about to finish her
Oh,
off there too. So
Oh, dude, and he does that to another, just like a whatever soldier, right? Like
yeah,
stabs him, and then like blood on the sword, and oh god, yeah. Cloud is scary in here, right? Like he
yeah,
definitely he checks out for quite a
yeah,
bit of time, and he's got that big old sword that he's using.
yeah. He's definitely going nuts because so when they defeat the Turks, they move. Now this was the hardest part of the game for me. So they get past the door that the Turks were at, and they saying like activates the some kind of temple-y thing, like I don't know what it is again, but it opens the doors so that each party member except Cloud, which is kind of funny,
Mhm.
has to go through a trial. And basically it was funny. It almost reminded me of the fear toxin from Scarecrow in like the animated Batman.
Oh,
Uh,
or even in they have that in whatchamacallit too, in Batman's Begins.
yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. So it's like this, they each of them walk into a room and they basically like relive the most traumatic moment of their life. So Tifa goes in and she has to watch her father be killed by Sephiroth again, and then have that feeling of helplessness of not being able to do anything. And Red 13's was brutal. Like they show him being dragged into the lab.
Oh, dude, and it just, as if I didn't already hate Hojo enough,
Yeah.
and oh, you just feel bad for old Red.
Yeah, and then Barrett's when he was like trying to get back to his wife
Oh, and he had
after.
both. That one was brutal to me because it was like, I feel like with Red, right? Like it was all negative. Like there wasn't anything really good. It felt like in that, like it was just reliving a horrible moment. Where
Yeah,
Barrett's, it felt like he was like, oh, I got my arm back, got my wife back,
yeah,
and then like it was like a flat. Oh nope, my arm's gone, my wife's dead. Like I felt like for him it was like, oh, we're gonna build him up to feel good, and then just cut
yeah,
him at the knees. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that one was brutal.
yeah, and then Yuffie having to watch. I can't remember his name from. I always forget names, man. The brotherly character from Intergrade, where he's like the villain is like taunting taunting her with his dead body, and
I know, yeah, I'm really bad. I honestly, in real life, I'll meet someone that tell me their name, and it just one in one
yeah,
ear and out the other. So
yeah.
I'm really bad with that. But yeah,
But I think the hardest one for me was Aerith. So it was the scene of when they're on the train and they're trying to escape, and Aerith's mom is sick, and they get off at the train station, and the mother is like dying, and Aerith is like this little 8 or 9 year old or whatever it is, um, helplessly going through Sector 7, like begging for help, and just no one even giving her a second look.
oh
And then
yeah,
you having to control that too.
yep.
Like I was,
And
oh
she's,
man,
yeah, like you said, she's like just a little girl. You know what I mean? Like so sad.
yeah.
And then I forget again, our name recollections here. Who's her mom, that or the or surrogate mom, I guess, essentially, that takes care of her. Um,
Oh yeah. No, not Marlene. That's the girl's the
It's something
daughter's
like
name.
that. Yeah.
Oh,
We love Final Fantasy.
Elmira,
Oh, yes, something
something
like
like that.
that. We love
Yeah,
Final Fantasy. We don't know any of the character names.
I know.
Uh, and like I thought that was sweet how like oh that's how they came to one another. Like she just what a good-hearted person to take
Yeah,
in this little girl, and like clearly she's like we need to get the heck out of here right now. And then like as you skedaddle, all the Shinra people come up and see her mother because they're
yeah,
looking for her, and then obviously for Aerith in turn as well. Um, yeah, yeah, there were some really some really tough moments there.
yeah,
You know how sometimes when you get to a point of the game, it's like, hey, just to remind, like just to let you know, pretty much you can't go any further past it. Once you go past it, the point of no return, right? They
yeah.
should have been like, make sure you've got a box of tissues with you before you present
I know.
go
It's like one of
forward.
those. They needed one of those warnings, like you may be triggered.
Yeah, yeah. Trigger warning. You
Yeah,
will cry.
yeah. Well, and then it was all like offset. Like, so they all come out of the out of their trials, like just dejected and depressed, and barely able to move on. And then Cloud, Cloud like a jerk
Let's
was like,
go.
"Move it!
I'm sick of you slow pokes. We got to move on.
What's all your problems?" You know?
Yeah. Oh, but you do get the trial for Cloud a little bit later.
Yeah, yeah. He gets his when they're like they're on their way to the room with the or where the black materia is supposed to be anyway. And yeah, they get in there and there's a neat scene, and then it's funny because like it's almost Indiana Jones, like where they where they get the black materia. Or I don't even think it is the black materia. I think it's like
It's
a decoy.
yeah,
It's like or it's like the key to where it actually is, or
Keystone, I
something like
believe
that.
they call it, right? And then you got to put in the pedestal.
Yeah, yeah. And so when they trigger that reaction, the temple starts to destroy itself, and we get Kate Sith's triumphant return, where he heroically uses his robot body to save the. And it's funny because all the party members are like worried for him, and they're like,
Heartbroken.
"No, we can't leave you," or whatever. And he's like, "No, just get out." And so like they all they escape the falling Kate Sith and the Moogle robot, like they're crushed as they're trying to hold the temple
It,
together.
and it's cool because yeah, like the essentially it's like a stone tablet almost is falling to fall into place, which I assume once it hits that point, that's when it sort of
Falls
collapses
apart.
on
Yeah,
itself. So yeah, you get a really cool scene of Kate literally underneath it, right? Like literally using all his power, his shoulders pushing up, and then the Moogle's trying. And yeah, everyone starts running out, and then all of a sudden you get squashed.
yeah,
Uh, and like it's funny because yeah, all the characters are obviously really emotional, but
yeah,
like I'm like, well, this is just, I mean, it's just a puppet essentially, right? Like it's just a vehicle.
yeah.
And then like yeah, and then like right as
Then
you
he's
get out,
waiting for them when they get out.
yeah,
Like, hey
fresh
guys,
one
why are you
comes
guys so
bouncing
sad?
through.
It's
So
hilarious.
funny.
Yeah. And yeah, so they make it out, and then this is when they know there's one final area of the game they have to go to, and this is the boss gauntlet. This is one of the beginning of one of the crazier sequences in gaming. Like,
Was it an
I
eight
know.
phase boss battle or something?
Oh my god, there was so many. Like, and it was funny too because like Final Fantasy games, like yeah, like you expect phases, you expect lots. Usually you could probably expect like 3 or 4 phases of the final boss or whatever. But yeah, there must have been at least 8. Like it just kept going and going.
It was bonkers. Yeah, it's like, all right, you're fighting a fight. Now you're fighting with Zack. Now you're fighting with Aerith. Now it's like, holy cow. Yeah, now you're fighting as these characters. And what I really liked is that, yeah, it's like it got every character involved, right? Like there's a part where it's Yuffie, Barrett, Red 13.
Yeah,
I think like obviously there's other parts where it breaks around when you're using Tifa and Cloud and stuff. The good thing is, yeah, I felt like at least you weren't stuck. It wasn't like a party of like Aerith, Kate Sith, and good luck. It felt like it broke down like the character, like the parties felt good. But I like when they get everyone involved, and even just this whole game, right? Even when obviously you've got the 3 main characters, but like even just random fights, like you'll see your other party members like off to the side. Like you'll occasionally see like Aerith throw like a bit of magic when she's not active in the party and stuff. So I did like how it wasn't just like if they weren't in your party, they were out of sight, out of mind. It's like, no, you still do see those other characters throughout the game when you're not using them. But I love that it did bring all of them into the final battle, which makes sense because it is, right, we've all battled to this point. Why should only a couple of them partake, right? Um, but yeah, I will say thank God that they let you start at like the different phases, right? Like if you died, it wasn't like, all right, start it all over from the beginning. They do let you, I mean, they give you that option, but they let you restart at different checkpoints. Because, I feel like I didn't have too much trouble with the final boss until the last
Yeah,
phase.
Sephiroth himself was the hardest one, and it was mostly because when you get him down to like 5%, he does this like weird spin move where
Mm-hmm.
like if he hits you with it, it's almost like a one hit kill, and there's no way to avoid the dodge. It's like you get like 10 seconds of health to hit him,
And you got to
or or
stagger him,
or
yeah.
it's over. You know.
Yeah, and that's what happened to me. So I think I died 3 times on him. The first one, I literally died right before he did that move. So I was like, okay, I'm close, I'm close. Then I got
Yeah.
that move, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm dodging this, and then like I'd get a couple hits on him, but I thought it was more like, oh well, I'll dodge this and then keep the fight. But yeah, essentially, if you don't stagger him, he just destroys you. So
Yeah.
then the next time I was like, oh, let me try and like attack him, but and then I realized like, oh, you need to like you actually
You
got
need
to
your
get a
limit break
stagger.
basically.
What's up?
You pretty much need your limit break
You know what
ready to go
actually?
at that point.
You know what worked really well? The forced thrust or something, or focus thrust.
Oh yeah, focus thrust. Yeah, yeah,
So I what I did to get him was I in that zone or in that phase I had 2 ATBs ready for Cloud, and I just did back to back those because I realized like on certain enemies that thing just staggers them in like lickety split.
yeah.
So I was able to stagger him with both of those, and then it was easy peasy. But yeah, at the time, like if I had to redo the entirety of all 7 prior phases, I would have jumped out the window. I would have been like I would have been so angry. But luckily they did give you that. But yeah, it was an epic battle.
Yeah.
You're like going around like huge crazy Sephiroth with like crazy arms and different spots you need to sort of like the one phase his arm, like I guess they weren't wing fingers, but they almost looked like fingers off his arms, and like they would change color, and like that was dependent on what his weakness was,
Right. Yeah.
like how you would counter it. So it was definitely a really cool phase, and I mean, it was epic visually, and it was really cool when Cloud and Zack fought with one another.
Yeah.
Like really cool, really cool. Because like in this game, I feel like Zack, obviously in the original, like he was there, but they've obviously sort of blown him out in a character, not through just this, but other media. And it really just shows you like everyone loves Zack, dude. Like
Yeah.
everyone loves Zack. He's the man.
Well, yeah, the whole sequence really shows you what the PlayStation 5 can do because like there was some when the other party was fighting I guess like the Genova monster whatever it is at the beginning, and they're like jumping through the air and like dodging midair, and there's like explosions everywhere, like it's just, and it's all like you would expect something like that to be a cutscene, like a pre-rendered cutscene. Like the fact that it's all happening in game in engine is just insane. Like it's just wild. Um, but yeah, at the end of the day, like I'll complain that there was maybe 8 phases that were like difficult to get through. But at the end of the day, like it's almost was necessary. Like when you think of like how epic the game is, like
Yeah, you couldn't
you
have
need
like a
eight
two-phase
phases
boss.
to make up for like you have to have an epic finish for an epic game.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they set the table for this game so high, the bar so high. Yeah, like
Yeah.
yeah, they couldn't skimp out on the final boss. Um, and I think yeah. Oh, okay. Actually, here. So it looks like I think I'm seeing at least. Oh, maybe these are the first 5 phases. Yeah, Cloud and 2 random characters. Then phase 2 is Tifa and Kate Sith.
Yeah,
Then the next one's Barrett and Red 13. Then Cloud and Yuffie. Then Cloud and 2 random characters. Then I think then you get Cloud and Zack. So that would be phase 6.
yeah.
Then then
I
you
think
fight
it's
as
I think
Zack
it's Cloud.
alone
And,
for a second.
yeah, and then it's
Then
Cloud
it's
and Aerith. I think at the
yeah,
end
so
in the
7. I
eighth
think there's
or
7
seven,
phases.
seven. Oh my god, it's
I
crazy.
guess it depends if you count that Zack alone as a phase, but I feel like that
Ah,
was
okay.
just to me that felt like part of the other phase.
Yeah,
But yeah, epic battle. And then I guess right like with the whole thing with Aerith is yeah, did she die? Did she not die?
yeah.
How did
So
that happen, right? Or how did
yeah.
you feel about that?
So we had the same iconic scene from the original game. The Sephiroth putting the blade through her. But in this game, there's clearly like two. It happens twice. Like there's one where like you do see it happen and she dies, and you see the materia roll away. But then there's like this flash of it happening again, but this time Cloud saving her. So
He
it,
deflects it.
yeah, he deflects it. So it's like, okay, which is the real one? And then as they're going through the phases or whatever, like there's this, obviously like this multiversal thing was not going on in the first game. So you have this like multiverse of like, what's the real timeline, which one is true, and then you've got like the fact that Zack is still alive in a timeline, and then he's fighting Cloud, and it's funny because when they start fighting together, um there's like that initial like, oh, you're alive, oh, you're alive. It's like, okay, let's do something. We gotta,
Let's kick this guy's butt.
yeah. So they just fight together, and then you think like, okay, it looks like Zack died again. But then he didn't. And so when it's all said and done and everything's, Sephiroth's defeated or whatever, there's this scene where Aerith is there. She's like sitting there, and Cloud is talking to her, but she's clear, like it's clear that he's the only one that can see her.
Oh, at the
Oh
very end, yeah.
yeah. Oh, and then there's the in the final phase, it's just Sephiroth and Cloud, ready to throw down, but then Aerith like appears out of a portal, and then and then
Hey there,
Sephiroth,
Cloud. Long
yeah,
time.
time to kick this guy's butt. And then
And
Sephiroth,
meanwhile, I'm like, no, not
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Aerith. Anyone but Aerith.
Yeah. It's like, can't you give her Tifa's
Yeah.
moveset? But then, yeah, and then Sephiroth mentions like, oh, so this, I've underestimated you, and there's this whole thing like earlier in the game when Aerith and Cloud go on a date, and they have like they awaken in their other bodies in the other timeline with Zack, and then they go on a
And
date in this
Marlene.
other world, and then
Yeah,
Sephiroth
right.
finds
And
them.
there's an interesting part in that flashback too, where like I think it's like Marlene touches Aerith or something, and like she knows something bad's gonna happen to her. Right? She even says
Yeah,
to Zack, like, "You need to save Aerith." Like, I don't know what's gonna happen, but like, it's not good, you know.
yeah,
And then even other times with Zack, when they flash back just to show the different like or different timelines, right? Where it's like I can go save Biggs, right? Was it Biggs? Right? I
yeah.
believe Biggs, or I could go to the other way and get Aerith and stuff. So it's like they're messing with your sort of perception of different zones and timelines, which is I mean, and then obviously the culmination at the end there, yeah, like, and I guess really right is like the big thing with Sephiroth is he gains his power from like pain and agony and suffering, right? Seems to
Hmm.
be his thing. So it's like he's going to all of these worlds and like and causing all this pain and suffering, and he wants to converge all of the timelines into one. So I think that's right how he would get all of his power. It's like, oh, I'm really strong, but if I can have all of these different timelines that have all of this pain and suffering and just sort of like bring them into one, which is right what he's trying to do with the black materia. It's like that's how he would get his ultimate form and power. It's like, let me get all of this. And I guess too where I guess this is in one of the flash or one of the date scenes, I think, right, where like sort of Aerith and Cloud are together, and then like Sephiroth's like, oh, this is where she's been in this world like that hasn't given up yet, or more or
Yeah.
less something along those lines. So it's like, because there was another world where like everyone's sort of just come to terms like, yep, the world's ending, like
Yeah.
that,
Well,
like,
yeah, that was the same one because that
oh,
was
was
the
okay.
that's the alternate timeline where Zach's alive. Because that's the thing is they're so in Zach's timeline, Aerith and Cloud are both like unconscious and they're just trying to like
Yeah, he's in the
comfort
wheelchair and
them.
she's on the bed.
Yeah, but then at the end of the game, the I don't know the Prime Cloud and the Prime Aerith.
I think
Uh,
I've heard people call them Omni Aerith,
oh,
like the all knowing Aerith, you know, like,
oh yeah, because she ends up like they end up in those bodies, so they kind of like get up from where they are. And then Aerith is like, "Oh, we need to, we don't have much time. I want to enjoy this world because it's like because they're back in Midgar, so they kind of walk around and do datey things or whatever." And yeah,
yeah,
like
just
at the
play
end,
along with me. Yeah.
yeah, and then she's like, "Don't look up," because there's like the
Yeah,
the
this
big
guy's
crack in the
coming.
sky, and yeah, I think like the people in that world have kind of like figure the world's gonna end because of the crack or whatever, but Zack is still like out there trying to fix things, and then yeah, Sephiroth finds them, and then yeah, he makes a comment about, oh, this is where you've been hiding. So there, yeah, like so it's hard to tell like there is there more than one Aerith or uh you know because it seems like
Getting
in the original.
Westworld vibes up in here.
Yeah, like in the original game, the whole point of it was Sephiroth was trying to cause a wound into the world with the meteor, so that when the world tries to repair the damage from the meteor, that he would be at the center of it and would like merge with the life stream. So, but in this game, they've got this multiversal thing going where he's trying to do the same thing, but over like multiple universes or timelines or whatever to really become like all powerful, I guess.
Yeah, the Omni, the
Yeah,
Omni Sephiroth. Yeah, the most
yeah,
powerful. It really is. It's so interesting, right? Because then, like with these timelines, it's like, all right, like the original game did happen as it did, and that was only one world, right? That was only
yeah.
one timeline. Um, and like think of all the other ones that have happened and have failed, right? Maybe that was the only one out of hundreds of timelines that had successfully went on. Um, and then I listened to some other spoiler stuff, so this isn't all of my thoughts originally because I'm not smart enough to do that. But I've heard some, right, where like I guess like materia, right? It's like memories are in that. So when you see the holy or white materia sort of lose its innards and it's essentially an empty vessel, right? Um, that maybe Cloud in the last part might like all of his memories from all the other timelines will somehow like manifest in there, and like that's how he'll have the power to overcome this eventually, like, this super strong Sephiroth that's got all this juice in him. Like,
Mhm.
oh, I fought this guy a million times before, like, and I don't remember it, but like now I'm going to be able to channel those memories, and like that's how he'll maybe get the power to overcome such a crazy strong foe. Um, it really, there's so much going on that like I feel like it's so easy to overlook. Um, but I guess just talking about her actual death scene, or that really the sequence that she dies but she doesn't die. Did you think like at the time were you like, oh my god, she's actually alive, or like were you just like, oh, this is probably like Cloud's brain messing with him or something?
Uh
Yeah, what was your read off that initial that
oh
initial like coming right off of it?
my I was expecting her to live in some version. Like I didn't think they're just gonna kill her again. So when she first gets hit, I'm like, okay, I was waiting for the trick. Like, okay, something's about to happen here. I really don't think she'll just be dead and not be like a character anymore. Like, and I'm fairly certain that we're gonna see her in the third installment. So I was like, okay, how are they gonna play with this? And obviously with the multiversal stuff and this fact that Zach was still alive, I'm thinking that was my thought. Is like, okay, there's gonna be like some kind of timeline thing. Uh, I guess even now that it's over and there's again the game ends with the team is getting onto I don't think it's the Bronco or it's the fixed Bronco or something, but they're getting on a plane and they're about to like continue on their quest. But everyone thinks Aerith is dead or believes that, and Cloud is the only one that can see her and talk to her, and so the way they leave it is like Aerith is going to stay behind to do something on her end to fight Sephiroth, and Cloud is to go off with the party, and so he doesn't have any of this like depression or anything because he believes she's alive. So I guess the question becomes is like, is she actually alive in some kind of multiversal way? And Cloud can see her for whatever reason, or is this the unreliable narrator where he sees her alive because he can't deal with the trauma, or whatever,
Mm. Yeah,
but it's
that would be interesting if, because I guess for me when I first saw it, I was like, all right, like, because at this point, yeah, it's pretty blatantly obviously we got the multiple timelines going on. Um, I was like, I think she's gonna be dead in the sense that we will not play with her as in our party at, like, maybe at the very end of part 3, like in the boss battle, I could see it, converging, and then unfortunately we got a battle with her again. But I like, to me it was like, all right, like in this point, like this time she's going to be alive and help me because of the things, but like I didn't think she would be carrying on with us after that.
yeah,
And I think, like you said, like you get that sort of that goodbye where like Cloud's like, all right, yeah, like she's here, she's doing her thing still, like, so he's not as upset. But almost to me it felt so sad because it's like, oh, she is dead in this plane of existence.
yeah,
Like she's gone, and like Cloud can see her. I don't know if it's the Mako infused, or if he's just special in that regard. But it is interesting too because like during the battle, right, when she dies, everyone else has their limit break filled afterwards, except for Cloud, because
yeah,
everyone else is so angry and upset, right? Like they've killed, like Sephiroth killed her. We hate this guy. Like we're fired up and ready to go, and Cloud doesn't have his limit break because he's like, oh, she's not dead, right? Like in his eyes. And I don't know if he like put two and two together. Like I don't know if he's like cognizant of the time planes, and he's like, oh well, sure, she's not here, but like she's just at another one chilling, like we'll see her again. Or if it is like he actually just doesn't realize she's dead at all, and just
yeah,
like, oh, she's just chilling here, like, because yeah, it's interesting, everyone else is so upset and he's just like, all right, let's keep on doing. We
yeah,
got places to be, things to do.
yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. Like, the thing that makes me think she might still be alive is because Zach is still alive too, right? Like, I kind of thought they would, like when he kind of disappears in his universe there. I in the moment I thought, oh, was this like, did Zach serve his purpose and now it's done? But then he wakes up and he's like, oh, okay, it's not time to die yet, and walks off, and so
Mm.
it make like, so he's got something going on, she's got something going on, so it makes you wonder, like, are they going to happy ending and ending this thing at some point where there's like some kind of convergence of the multiverse, and
And yeah, like the good convergence where they're all alive.
yeah, they pop out of these other universes and back into the main timeline or whatever,
Yeah,
and
it's so interesting because it is like that. Because I guess for me, it's like, yeah, I think Zach and Aerith are going to show back up, and we're going to play as them for portions of the game. But yeah, it will be interesting at the end. Does it all converge
yeah,
the one, or do they all separately stay okay, we're staying on our own, there is no convergence, we've stopped that, and then there will be a true, like, all right, Aerith, this is actually goodbye, right? Like I won't see you anymore, our timelines aren't going to overlap. And like, do you get that moment? Do you get the convergence? Do you get a spot where they do go their separate ways and they don't realize, like, you know what I mean? Like, will
or do they all die except Nanaki?
yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Like, who because the original ending was a bit of a mystery too,
Holy,
because
yeah,
they you see Nanaki and another
and his kids, right? Isn't that
yeah, and
implied?
they're kind of running around in the world that's like renewing itself, whatever. But you still don't know, like, is this hundreds of years in the future, or is this
A
uh
day
you know
later, yeah. Well,
yeah, is
probably not a
yeah,
day later if he's got
like
kids, but
are they did things really work out, or is like the world still on the path to ruin? Like, are there any humans even in the world anymore? Like, you never it's very
dude, part 3 is gonna be wild.
yeah.
Because I really feel like they could do anything. It's like like this
Yeah,
game. It felt like I said, it felt like it stuck to its roots, but like just added so many more layers underneath it. So on the surface, it's still the cadence and like in the rhythm of the game feels pretty similar for the most part. But yeah, it's just there's so much more to think about, and it's like, are they just gonna blow out part 3? Yeah, where it's like, all right, like we've given you 75% of the game similar more or less to the original, but like the last quarter of the game are really going to screw with you, or yeah, how is it going to end? And
like I'm curious if they're gonna just like brand new game at this point, like because they've kind of it's funny because like remake it followed the original, but it was clear that there was like they made it crystal clear that things were changing and that the whispers were trying to fight the change or whatever. But then Rebirth almost felt like it was closer to the original in some like closer to the original than remake in a lot of aspects, except for the whole multiversal thing.
yeah,
So and the story is kind of gone off the track of the original enough by the end of the game where it's like, is this just going to be a brand new finale? Like, is the third one just going to be like a whole new?
yeah, new
Uh,
canvas to paint on.
yeah, because you got Hojo who might be on to the whole multiversal thing, and
That
you got Rufus who's changing his things, and like yeah, like there just seems to be like a whole like infinite possibility of what they could do.
Yeah, and it's funny because one of the guys that I sort of Maximilian dude, he's a big Final Fantasy VII guy, and I was listening to some of his thoughts, and it's funny because he even thinks that like the whispers are like a meta commentary on like the creators of the game and like player base,
Mm-hmm.
right? Between where like we want the same game. We just want it looking good, and like them like, oh well, we're gonna change some things, but the whispers are trying to keep it the same. Like the fans want it the same. So there is like a meta on top of it that you could even sort of cook into and see what they're trying to say with trying to make or remake such a well loved and renowned game, and changing it and not changing it and stuff.
Yeah.
So there's so many layers that you could really peel the onion back with not even just the game, but just the development and all that good stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I think I just don't know. I feel like I could see it going the way that there's some sort of culmination where the timelines and everything come together. We fight Sephiroth, we kill him, and I could see that. Hey, like the timelines are going to go their separate ways. Like there won't be a great convergence. They just go their separate ways. And then, all the characters forget about the other timelines except for maybe Aerith. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, it would be interesting if it really is like this world pretty much sees its demise uh, in terms of everyone on it, except and like you said, you sort of see the world start to regrow again. Um, but my gosh, I can't wait, dude.
I know.
The good
Well,
thing I was thinking
yeah,
too with
probably won't
just
be that.
even part 3 is like they've got the world down, right? Like obviously things will change with it, but I wonder if they'll be able to do like almost like Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. Like we're gonna reuse the world, obviously build upon it, and maybe that'll make for a quicker release. Not that I expect it to come out in a year or two, but maybe not 5 or 6.
No, well, so Rebirth to remake was 4 years. I feel
Which is
like
absurd, dude,
that
if
is
you think about
absurd.
it. Like what they did, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
So I feel like 4 years is probably like I'm thinking 3 to 4 years is probably when we're gonna see it. Um,
PS6 launch title, baby.
yeah, or I don't know. Like 3 years of the PS5 doesn't seem that like it could be like one of the final games for the PS5 sort of thing.
I think what they should do. I mean, obviously,
The
it's
Swan Song,
have it be the swan song, and then when you release the DLC, um,
PS6.
with the upgrade, yeah, to visually look better on the PS6. But yeah, who knows? The
Yeah.
Switch is going on what,
Oh, it's like 8 years now.
7, 8 years, yeah. So,
Yeah.
and honestly, PS5, I love my PS5, man.
Oh, I know. I love it too. I don't know. I don't. Maybe something does come out in the next few years, but you know, I've really enjoyed the PS5, and the other thing they could do is they could do the third one be a swan song for the PS5, and then the PS6 they could release an upgraded version that's all three
Oh,
in one, and that would be like your launch PS6 launch
the eight
title from
discs
Square.
collection.
Yeah, like how wild would that be? Like here's 300 hours of pure
Yeah.
joy.
Yeah, yeah. Good luck beating this one in a timely manner. This is your game for the year. Is
Yeah,
literally, it wouldn't be game of the year. This is your game
game
for
for
the
the
year.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then Sony wouldn't have to worry about launch titles right away because like we've got some time, guys. It's gonna take you a long time to finish this
Oh,
trilogy.
and I would happily replay every second of it.
Yeah. Oh
Oh
man.
my goodness, man! I know we talked about some speculation. I did want to just touch more a little bit on the date scenes, and just you went back and watched them all, right?
Yeah, I think I watched most of them. Uh, yeah, because the Tifa one is the one I got in game,
Me too.
so that was good.
And we got
I
kiss.
Yeah, and
It's funny.
it's the only one he actually kisses someone in too.
I was just gonna say that because I thought right with the maxed like thing, I was like, oh, okay, so he probably kisses Aerith. I guess maybe I didn't think he'd kiss Yuffie just because she's like 16, you know?
Yeah,
I thought, yeah, maybe not that one. Obviously, I didn't like anticipate him kissing Barrett or anything, but I
yeah,
guess mainly I thought he would kiss Aerith, but he doesn't.
yep,
But yeah, so Tifa's the one you get the smooch on. Aerith it's a really nice moment as well. Honestly, I thought the Barrett one was cool, right?
yeah,
It's like homies, they broing out a little bit, and he's sort of saying like, "Hey, don't blow it with
yeah,
Tifa, you idiot." You know what I mean?
yeah,
Or I guess it could. I don't think he specifically says Tifa. I think he just says like, "Hey, if you got feelings, let him out," kind of thing.
yeah,
Um, and then honestly, though, it's hard. I mean, obviously, Tifa's the best in my opinion.
yeah,
But I really like them all, but Reds was really great too because to me that one, it's just seeing Red so excited to go on this, and then you just got to stop to remember it's like he's a kid.
yeah,
He's a kid in the grand scheme of things. So he's howling, his tail's wagging, he's excited.
yeah,
And then yeah, he sort of lets you in on that, like, hey, me and Aerith saw the future, dude. Um, like I got that power too. I am of an ancient descent. But then I thought at the very end, right? He's like, this stays between us. Like shake on it, essentially, right? And
yeah,
then Cloud feels this, and he goes, "Huh? They are soft." Like talking about his paws, and then
yeah,
Maniki's like, "Huh?" He's like, "Oh, nothing." So like, I wonder if it was just a like an internal dialogue, like wondering if Red 13's paws were soft, or if it was like a conversation he had with someone else. But I
yeah.
thought that was cool. And then yeah, of course the boys' night out with Sid,
That was hilarious.
Kate and Vincent,
Yeah,
and it's so funny because they're all. I saw a lot of comments on it. Though it's like when you're in your mid-30s and you're going out with the boys, and
yeah,
because they're all tired and bored and just like, except for Kate, who's like, "Come on,
yeah. He's
guys, we're having a
excited and
good
he's getting
time."
mad at them and stuff. It's hilarious.
He's like, "You guys suck. I'm trying to
Yeah,
have a good time," and you get like Vincent actually falls asleep.
yeah,
Like Sid's like why'd we come on this Ferris wheel? I want to go home.
yeah.
Um, just a good comedy. Good comedic relief.
Yuffie's was a neat callback to
Oh
Crisis
yeah, yeah.
Core
I
because
totally forgot about hers.
yeah, because and it's funny because like she's talking about Zach and he doesn't know that she's talking about Zach, and it's kind of funny in a sense because it's like, well, I'm sitting there thinking like, well, Aerith should end up with Zack, and here's Yuffie crushing on him over like this funny, because when Zack meets Yuffie in Crisis Core, Yuffie is like 10 or 12 or
Yeah,
something.
I
Like,
went and watched that clip actually afterwards.
yeah,
So funny, and she's
yeah,
protecting her homeland, and he's like, "Oh, geez, like this little girl, like I'm not gonna hurt her." You know what I
yeah,
mean? And then she does the fake punch, or I don't know, I guess not fake punch. She was using her abilities, and like, yeah, Zack fakes like, "Oh, I'm defeated,"
yeah,
and then Cloud does something similar,
yeah.
which
Makes
was a cute
yeah,
callback.
yeah. So yeah,
But
they're pretty
yeah,
neat.
and
Yeah,
then it just again to Yuffie being a ball buster. You know, she's like, why do you always have beautiful women around you? You know what I mean? Between Tifa and Aerith, and then she's like, good thing you've got me here too. You know, like
yeah,
just sort of teasing and having a good time.
yeah. No, they're great.
But yeah, well worth the. I guess at that point, 70 hours or 75 hours to get those
Yeah,
cutscenes
I'm
were.
glad they left him at the end too. Like, it was a neat thing to kind of like one last thing before the final boss. I think
It
was
was the sweetness before the tough battle at the end.
yeah,
And really, that's sort of the theme of this game, right? It's like even all the timeline stuff, they sort of hint at it, obviously, but then like you really don't find out the whole meaning of it until the last hour of the game, you know.
yeah,
Um, so they really string you along.
yeah. Oh man, it's been such a ride. Like, such a great game
Yeah, and I mean we mentioned it before, but yeah, it really is the best game ever made. So
so far.
yeah, yeah.
We'll see what happens with the third one when it comes out. But man, like, I don't know
Honestly,
where you go from here. Like, it's just they've made such a bar to hit that it's like it's
I can't
insane.
imagine they. I don't know. Like you said, it's like I can't imagine they can top it. But I mean,
I didn't think they Rebirth would be as good as it was. So
yeah,
sky's the limit at this point.
it's funny because I've like remakes amazing, and then like, and granted, I'd have to replay remake to get a more fresh thoughts and opinions on it. But I feel like Rebirth just like took its lunch and ate it. You know,
Oh
like
yeah,
no, like remake's great, but like Rebirth is next level.
yeah. No, it's just that this yeah, and I think it's like twice as long too. So it's
Yeah,
and
and
it's
then
still as bad. Like, the moment to moment is still like I was just like kid in a candy store the entire time. Like,
mm,
you play 90 hours in a game. There's always going to be times where it feels like a slog. But I never felt like, maybe the Kate Sith part was the only time I felt
Kate
just
Sith and some of the mini games aren't great,
yeah.
but the mini games
They're
are
so
mostly
short though.
optional.
Yeah,
Yeah, or you can knock them down to easy mode and just sort of brute force them. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Um,
So yeah, this
but yeah,
is prop for the time being, and we'll see how long. This is definitely on top of my list of favorite games now.
mm, so good, dude, so good.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's sad it's over. It's sad it's over, but. Yeah, I mean, again, if you're listening to it at this point, you're probably played the game. But if for some weird reason you haven't, what are you doing? What are you doing? You should be listening
Yeah.
to this actually.
Yeah. Well, would you? I guess as like one final thought, as we wrap it up, would you tell, like, if someone was like, okay, I haven't played any or OG remake or rebirth, like, I don't know what I like. I'd probably tell people to play remake first. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I think. Hmm. I would say, yeah, if you're invested in like, or obviously not invested, but you want to get in, like, hey, I'm interested, and like, I'm down to like buy multiple games. I would start with remake because, like, I wouldn't say you need to go play the original game. I know that's sort of a tall order to, hey, go play a 40
You could
hour
probably just
PS1 game.
you
You
could
know,
probably
like
just watch a YouTube video about the original game and kind of glean enough from it.
honestly, I would do that after though. Like, I would play remake and then I'd play Rebirth, and
Yeah,
then if you want to go, you know what I mean? Because I feel like you could play these games, stand still, and not feel like oh I like this game is stupid. It doesn't make any sense. You know, I
yeah,
feel like you could definitely play them. I mean, shoot. If you were like I do like I just want to play Rebirth for some reason and I don't want to play remake, I think you could still do that and enjoy the game a lot. Like,
Yeah,
obviously, you'll miss context. I think they do a good job of like the story up till now. They've got like a 5 minute little video when you start the game, like as an option you could watch to sort of get you up to speed on the events of the first game.
yeah. The
Um,
gameplay is good enough that I think it stands on its own.
and
Or,
yeah, and like the story, like I said, I mean, in a perfect world, you should definitely play remake first. But like, I don't think there's a like if you played Rebirth, like I don't think you'd be like oh, like the game was fun, but I had zero idea what was going on. You know, I
yeah,
like I think the game does a good enough job of explaining and getting you up to speed. But I mean, I would play remake first for sure.
yeah,
This way, just because like you get the characters, you know, you learn everything and you get the background, but I don't think you need to play the original by any standard.
no,
And like I think once you beat it, this to go back and like you said, watch a recap or like a you know, even like if you watch like a let's play, not all the way through, but just to get an idea of sort of what the original was like, you know, could sort of give you some more context. But I
yeah,
think you could play the game Rebirth solo, but I would recommend at least remake.
yeah. Well, man, this was a lot of fun, Casey. I think we'll have to find another big game to kind of do a multi episodic.
Yeah, it's always fun when we like I said. I think that's why we look back to Xenoblade 2 as such like a fond memory because we pretty much talk. We didn't record a podcast every couple of weeks on it,
No,
but we talked you know the entire way through.
yeah,
Yeah, these games are always more fun when you got someone who's like equally into it, geeking just as hard as you are on it. You know,
yeah,
to be able to talk, and then obviously this game just the breakdown with the zones made it so easy to like, oh, okay, this is a good section of game to talk about.
yeah,
But yeah, I'm sure we're trying to do some more of this. We've got some good games coming out this year, and obviously there's always the the never ending backlog that keeps
yeah,
getting taller of games
yeah.
to go back on. So
Yeah, I keep looking at Persona 3 Reload on my Xbox, thinking, man, when am I going to get to play that?
I honestly I would like to play that one. We've got Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance coming out soon. That's a game I played 5 for. I mean, I guess I could probably look on my Switch and see how many hours, but I don't know. I'd probably say 10 to 20, but I never finished it.
Yeah,
So Vengeance might be something I dive back into at some point.
cool. Well, Casey, I want to thank you for joining me on this ride of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. The whole it's memorialized in time, so now when we eventually, 6 months, a year, or 2 years from now, start to forget everything,
Yeah, we can get
we
our
can come
thoughts.
back, come back and remember. Or when we start playing the third game, and we say stuff a bit about our experience in the second game, we can be called BS on our memories or whatever. But
We'll have to when they give us a release date for 3, we'll have to restart. Like, we'll be, all right, it'll probably be here from when they announce it. We'll be like, all right, we'll play remake, then we'll play rebirth, and then you roll right into it, and
yeah,
it'd be the greatest year of gaming ever.
yeah. Well, yeah, we'll see. That's a tall order, but it would certainly be fun.
I do want to play remake at some point.
Yeah,
And you know, it'd be one of those ones where you just mainline it, like don't do any side quests, just beat the main story. And I feel like you could probably do that in like 20 to 30 hours.
yeah. Cool. All right. Well, I guess this is the end of our Final Fantasy VII Rebirth coverage. I know. Oh, I feel so sad. But no. Well, we're on to more things. We've got some more trails, new trails in the Legend of Heroes is coming out this summer. We got plenty to talk about. So it's
Got Thousand Year Door coming out soon.
yeah.
I don't think you'll be getting that, but I will be.
No. I'm sure Jordan and Paige
Yeah,
will. Yeah,
yeah.
we'll have an epi.
Us Nintendo stands will be
Yeah,
playing it.
there'll be an episode one way or another. But yeah, the end of one game just means the birth of another. So I guess for now we will say goodbye. But
Birth of Depression. Yep.
yeah, we'll be sad for a bit, and then we'll play the next game, and we'll talk about that. So I guess, yeah, I want to thank everyone, especially everyone who's made it through all 7 episodes. Thank
Yes,
you very much for joining on us ride, and
real ones, real ones.
yeah, and yeah, we look forward to the next Thirsty Mage. Bye for
All right.
now.
Adios, guys.